Quick question, Stephen. How do you think they tested for that?
Probably PCR.
Yeah. Because, of course, they didn't learn anything.
No.
And if anybody is not familiar, we've been talking about this like since COVID started. PCR is the biggest scam ever. It is the most absolutely ridiculously broken system of testing. It was never intended to be a testing system. It was a research tool that was hijacked and turned into a testing regimen that has millions of problems. It is the most completely BS system of like it's just ridiculous. I couldn't believe once we found the info about PCR tests, I was like, this is the biggest scam ever perpetrated to people ever. It was unbelievable. But yeah, what were we going to say about the? Are you going to bring up Fauci?
Yeah.
Right.
So Dr. Fauci returns, telling people that they should wear masks, and he gets harangued by CNN.
Yes.
So here's the video. This is just, I find this hilarious. And of course, it's posted by Rand Paul, because Rand Paul is just,
of course it is.
He's so on point with COVID. It's awesome. Let's watch.
Brett Stevens in The Times talked about Cochrane. Put that on the screen. The most rigorous and comprehensive analysis of scientific studies conducted on the efficacy of masks for reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference, he told the journalist Mayan Damasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said. Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding?
How do we get beyond that? How do we get beyond that? That's a key
Yeah, but
question.
there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual. When you're talking about
observational
the effect
studies
on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong.
Like
you are such a hack.
The idea that anybody listens to this idiot anymore, it's mind blowing. This guy should never, ever be able to show his face. He should never be able to show his face ever in public. He has been so thoroughly debunked as a complete sham artist. Like he should never be back. Stephen, do you remember that? Okay, so that what was it? It was that PDF chart, and it showed all of the studies based on like the strength of the studies, and what basically that study that chart, it showed that like that the all the studies that say that masks are effective are on the weaker side. They have no systematic reviews, no meta-analysis, which are the strongest levels of evidence. And on the other side, the sides that say masks are not effective or are not helpful, like they had so many. Here, I'm gonna post a link in the chat for anybody who wants to see it. It's under the section True or False, the majority of the best and most high-quality studies report masks to prevent. There's a PDF chart there, and you can go take a look at it. I'm going to post it in the chat. Basically, and this was like early on, early on in the pandemic, it was incredibly obvious that the mask studies, the strongest evidence was showing masks aren't working. And you still get people saying like, well, I saw a study somewhere that said that they do work. Yes, an observational small scale, not an RCT. That was Stephen's go-to argument for anybody who argues for masks. Show me a single RCT. Nobody could do it because they were in short supply. And even when they started coming out, any RCT study that actually studied masks came to the opposite conclusion. They basically concluded that no, these things are not working. And it's not that masks are useless totally. They're just not made for the task of stopping viruses. They're not. This was the scientific consensus before the COVID pandemic or plandemic. And then And then people suddenly, every scientific organization from the WHO, CDC to everyone else, they suddenly they suddenly had a breakthrough, a eureka moment, a magical light from the sky, and they're like, "We've seen the light! Oh my goodness, masks are now beautifully perfect, and they're gonna save us all." And it's like, do you have any evidence for that? No, but we're smart and we have medical degrees, so we know what we're talking about. And like, yeah. So anyway, if anybody still believes this, it's on you, because the evidence is now there. There are mountains of data, mountains of studies. It's not defensible. And I'm sorry, Fauci should never, ever be used as a credible source of information ever. Like, he's a pathological liar. He should never be in public again. I'm shocked that they're putting him up there at all. Yeah. What a nut job. What a nutcase.
What a nutcase. All right.